All right. Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, from the dark room, apparently, is my co-host Tom.
Hello, friends.
Tom, without being too specific, because obviously I don't want you to get, I don't want you to say your exact location on the internet. But in rough terms, Tom, where are you right now?
Uh, in Louisiana, about 10 miles from the coast.
Okay. So that's where Tom is. Anybody who's watched anything about the weather in the United States in the
It's
past,
fine.
days knows that there is a massive hurricane that is about to bear down on Tom that just upgraded its strength like 20 minutes ago. So there you go.
Let's just say, both of them were lined up for dead-on hits for us.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, Marco, literally disintegrated, as it hit the coast. It swung east, disintegrated. It's fine. We didn't even get, only got a little bit of rain.
So
No wind.
this will be Tom's last show. So let's all make the most of it. Also joining us this also joining us this week, we're happy to have him back on the show. Jack from Rerolling Ones. What's up, buddy?
That's me. How's it going? It's a pleasure to be here. I'm on vacation, so I decided to reach out to Vince and ask if he needed a guest. And hey, lo and behold, I'm back.
It is never, ever, ever a bad time to have Jack on the show. Absolutely. Anytime. We'll take all your vacation time up, my friend. And we are going to be talking Khorne tonight. In fact, we're going to fix Khorne. Here it is. This has been discussed about a lot. As you can see, Jack's got his Wrathmongers on the painting desk next to him. We got a Bloodthirster there in the background. Look at that. See, he's watching over the show.
I bought another one.
There you go. He's ready to go. All right. So, before Tom gets carried away by the winds, Dorothy style.
I do have a questionable internet connection, probably understandably.
Don't worry. I have a replacement for you if you drop and your internet breaks down because hurricane. I've got a meme that will do just as good a job as you will, so it's all good.
Sure. So there was first news is that there was a set of reveals this last weekend, right?
There was a set of reveals this last weekend, and we did a whole show about it. But by we, I mean I did with Anthony. So actually, neither of you, I know your opinions on it. So here we go. Jack, you're the guest. I'm going to start with you. What did you think of the reveal show?
I'm very enthusiastic. I don't. I'm not very critical of GW, which is not the best thing. But I was excited to see all the stuff. I'm interested in the Morathi book, and I'm interested in where we go from here. I really enjoy that AOS is it's not static.
Right.
It grows. It's there. So it's okay, we're moving past Soul Wars and getting to this new chapter, and I'm just excited for that. Excited for Daughters of Cain to get. I don't know. So the book is going to be Daughters of Cain and Ideneth. I'm not sure exactly what it is.
Yeah, that's if it follows the Psychic Awakening model, it'll be title card and undercard in every book, right? So you got two armies in every book. One of them gets the title card, they're on the cover. The other is the also featuring.
So and other things I'm into AOS, but for instance, Warcry and Warhammer Underworlds, I'm interested in that as it pertains to AOS.
Sure.
So I'm just okay, what are their rules going to be for the game that I like? It's similar to I like football, but I don't watch the draft and all this stuff. I don't it's too into the other stuff. So, but yeah, it's exciting time. It's the best time to be, or one of the best times to be into Age of Sigmar. All things considered with the coronavirus.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, look, I'm super excited for that Lord of Pain. I think I've talked about that 100 times, but obviously that dude has me written all over it. Leather Daddy, let's go. Tommy, since you didn't get to do the show this weekend as you were driving down to your vacation, what did you think of the reveals?
I loved it. I'm selling that Slanesh half. Man, am I selling that Slanesh half? Literally, that box will probably not even grace my doorstep.
Okay.
But I like that half of the box. Let me say that. Yeah, I'm gonna buy all of it. I'm excited. It confirms to me that we are definitely getting a new Daughters of Cain book. Yeah, that's happening.
Do you think we're getting? Do you really think we're getting a new Daughters of Cain book, or do you just think we're going to get the Band-Aid rules in Marathi?
Yes, I was thinking.
Because in the Psychic Awakening, they used the Psychic Awakening in lieu of printing a new book. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Maybe. Maybe is my answer. I'm not familiar with the Psychic Awakening content very explicitly. Like, I don't know all the degree to which the rule changes. It wouldn't surprise me. Like, that would only reinforce to me, by the way, that we're getting a new edition.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the general running belief is...
We are definitely getting a new edition next summer.
Yeah, the general running belief is that Psychic Awakening led up to, obviously, was the doorway in the narrative entry into, 9th edition. Yep. And so if they're following the same battle plan here, then we'll get X amount of time of new content through these books, whatever they happen to be, Marathi et al., and that will lead up to 3rd edition.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and if that's the case, that wouldn't surprise me either, right?
Yeah, sure. My only ask there would be, and I mentioned this on the other show, is one of the challenges with the Psychic Awakening stuff is that not all of that content lasted very long. Some of the stuff, especially like the Space Marine stuff, actually had a relatively short lifespan. Some of it will last a lot longer and will be useful longer and yada, yada, yada. And there's the multiple book complaint and whatever. But my ask would be, I really hope if we get into 3rd edition that the changes are extremely minimal. I think the game is in a great place right now. I really don't. I'm not asking for a bunch of big changes.
Sure. I mean, yeah, the game's in a pretty good spot. That's what I'll say. Yeah. I love the Warcry box. I love the Warcry box. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for... even the Underworld stuff caught my attention. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
It's all good. Aminals happen. Totally agreed. If you want to see more thoughts about it, obviously we did the reveal show. But what was your single favorite thing out of the whole reveal? Jack, you got a single favorite. You got to pick one thing.
I really love that chameleon skink.
That chameleon skink.
Yeah, and that gives me I'm excited to see what else is in that set for Warhammer Underworlds. Just because when you look at Saurus and you look at the skinks, kind of hold up, but I think the Saurus warriors and just to have a new maybe Saurus warrior or maybe a Temple Guard in there just to look super cool. I'm excited for that. Right on.
Tom, single pick.
It has to be the. It has to be the Melusai.
The Melusai Iron Scale?
Yeah, the Melusai Iron Scale. And simply because the model's great. Most of those Melusai models are great.
Yeah.
But actually the implications.
Sure. That we'll actually be able to run a snake army with a real commander who's actually made to run snakes.
And that's not just a wizard, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yep. That you'll actually have a melee hero snake.
Yeah.
It's just a really interesting implication for the army, and potentially army formation, structure stuff. There's just a lot of really interesting implications for the existence of that snake. And so, I could see myself buying a snake army.
Yeah, 100%. I'm excited to I'm actually excited to maybe add some more snakes based on what happens. And I already have a lot, but I could expand it out to be basically a full snake army, which would be good.
I have none. I have my caster obviously on foot.
Sure.
My Shadowstone wielder, but I don't actually have any other snakes. I have, 3,000, 4,000 points of daughters with no snakes, and so it would be as if I was buying a new army.
Gotcha. Yeah. No. It's a chance to get at that. Yeah, Tom. Make sure you mute yourself or whatever when you're not talking. That way we don't hear all the sounds of nature and locusts and hissing and stuff. There you go. Yeah,
it's probably the air conditioning down the I turned off our air conditioner.
Gotcha.
But I can't do it for the neighboring unit, so I will mute myself when I don't talk.
Yeah, it's all good. There we go. That'll make it a lot more peaceful for everybody. Although when the storm starts, if you get hit in the head with a lawn chair or something whipping along at 50 miles an hour, that will make for really great YouTube.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Vince and I were talking about the weather before Tom logged on, and he was saying, "Yeah, you need to be at least 30 miles inland to not be affected." And Tom came on, and Vince asked Tom how many miles inland he is, and he said 10. It's like,
Yeah, exactly. On the bright side, if that happens, I will download this, cut just that clip, and then have my most successful YouTube video ever. And it'll just be like Fail Nation watch YouTube co-host get smacked in the head by a lawn chair at 50 miles an hour, something like that. And boom, that'll be the most successful video on my channel instantly.
It'll be like me saying, "How far inland are you?" 10 miles. It's fine.
Yeah, sure.
And then like cut.
Wham.
75 minutes later.
Right.
Wham. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well.
Exactly. Okay. So, obviously we also have the rumor engine. I've got it up right now. It's a pistol. I think it's a 40k pistol. Could be a fantasy pistol. Hard to say.
I'll take a guess. I'm going to say City of Sigmar Warhammer Underworld's warband.
It would make sense if in the 4th round they finally got a warband with some new sculpts. So I'm not that's not, I think, outside the box at all. Like this is season 4.
Okay, but you got to call it which city, which of the cities.
Doesn't that all happen in Gairan? Or no, it all happens in Gur, so it could be any.
I think Hammer Hall is like, is it in Gur? Hey, it's Hammer Hall.
Yeah, it's in Gur, so it's none of them. It defaults to none of them.
Yeah, so. Because that's I believe Hammer Hall is like the main kind of city, and so it's like they're New York or whatever. So we'll go with that.
Yeah, I mean it would make sense. That's what they love making all the special characters. Hammers of Sigmar and the Lords of Hammer Hall and stuff like that. So, I saw somebody say new Witch Hunter. I mean, look, let's be honest. If we got an Underworlds warband that had like some kind of Witch Hunter in it.
Oh, like a Devoted of Sigmar. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. So anything like that. Like it could have a human guard type dude, like a halberdier. It could have a witch hunter type guy. It could have a flagellant, whatever. And you get new sculpts for all of those. I'm gonna guess they'd sell 1 million of them. Like that, people would buy those instantly. Right now, I'd be curious. Let's imagine, folks. Right now, people who are watching, just drop this in the comments. If we had a Warhammer Underworlds warband that was like a new witch hunter sculpt, let's call it a flagellant. Maybe some kind of warrior priestish guy and a standard updated free guild type of guard dude, right? Like a soldier, right? Like somebody who's there, like an elite soldier, but a soldier. All right. Is that a thing you would be interested in buying? Do you want to see that?
You mean like a great sword or like a Knight of the Blazing Sun?
No, I meant more like a great sword. Sure.
A horse in the warband. That'd be really cool.
I was thinking more, like a great sword or a very flourishy halberdier. Or, whatever, something like that, right? Anything of that nature. It seems that there is just watching the comments roll in, it looks like people are pretty positive about that. Okay. That would be great. Yeah, have a dog with the Witch Hunter, like old Mordheim, where your Witch Hunters can take dogs. Yeah, that's a good call. I'm seeing a lot of that's a buy from me. All right.
Science. Bam.
There it is.
We got the numbers.
Yes, not flatulence. Flagellance. Slightly different.
Whatever you do, don't say flagellants, or the internet will get really mad at you.
Oh, is that the wrong way to pronounce it that people get angry at?
Yeah.
All right, so a flagellant. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
I'll say that from now on. Yeah, clearly there is people who are like this would be the thing. And I just think there is a lot of love for that sculpt. People like new sculpts and new stuff, but I think people also really, there are those aesthetics that people have just come to love and have a deep-seated love for. And let's be honest, the Witch Hunter dude is, one of the coolest concepts. It was a cool novel, it's a cool fig, it's a cool concept. Reintroducing that kind of thing would be pretty awesome. So, yeah, all right. We definitely have that's definitely a buy. That's basically all the AOS news. There's not that much more, so it's fine. I mean, the reveal show was big, so there you go. That was all right. That was your AOS news. Now shut up and like it.
Pour one out for Nova.
Indeed. Yep, Nova. I would have been getting prepped up right now to get ready for to head down to NashCon, but no, sadly, no such luck. That's all right. We'll be back next year. I guess the only other big piece of news, and if we want to talk about sad things, this isn't like happy news, but it is sad COVID related news, is that unfortunately CanCon is the latest victim. Would have normally happened in January of 2021. It also announced its cancellation. That's a shame. I am sad about that. It wasn't like I was going to be able to come down again this year anyways, for obvious reasons. Even if they were doing it, they'd be like, I'm sorry, you're from where? America? The United States? Nah, get out of here. You're not allowed in our country. I was sad to see that. But I know it'll be back stronger than ever in 2021. And hopefully I'll be back in 2021 because my wife has already said she wanted to come in 2021 and go to Australia. So that seems like a win to me. So I'm sure that
I've already talked to Amber about it, and Amber's interested as well.
Sure, I meant 2022. I'm sorry. This is, you know what I mean. January of 2022. That's what she. Yeah, you get it. You get it.
Up and down there too. I'm going in January 2022 as well. Let's put it out there.
Let's go. Everybody. We all head to Australia. It's a U.S. invasion. This is the reverse, the Australian invasion. We're coming in, and we're going to take it over. We bring our best and our brightest, and we show the Aussies what's up. You know, Here's the thing. So they do this thing the day before at a local game store. It's a really nice store, actually an awesome store, there in Canberra, called the Tasman Cup. Okay, and it's a showdown between Team New Zealand and Team Australia. Okay. And it's a great, like, you know, I think they did 9 games, and whoever wins the most. So it's 9 Australians against 9 New Zealanders. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, if there's enough Americans that go down there.
I mean, we are the natural spoilers.
Maybe we got to see if we can get, because it's AOS Shorts Dan, who's one of the people responsible around sort of the planning of it and everything. See if we get enough Americans going. There we go. Okay.
Yeah. I think Doug from 2 Plus Tough, he's in the chat. He'll probably come. And
there you
we can
go.
probably kill him.
Rally up. Rally up.
I am down.
All right. Let's see. So that's all the news. So let's jump straight into some pick of the week. Jack, what would you like to share with everybody?
So good friend of ours, Anthony from AOS Coach. I will be.
I've heard.
I mean, if you can't get enough of your Jack content, I'll be on the show tomorrow. And so tune into that. I believe we're doing it at 12 Pacific Standard Time. I'm a big fan of Coach. He is all, Doom and Darkness, all the Australian guys, not like they're the one person, but so I'll be on AOS Coach tomorrow.
Nice. Awesome. Very good. Well, I will link Coach's channel in his most recent videos. He's been knocking out some really awesome content. So there you go. You should have, if you're not already subbed to AOS Coach, please go do that because you're missing out on fantastic AOS content. Tommy, what would you like to share with everybody? If you remember to unmute yourself. Nope, you're still muted. There you go.
I know, I need to jump in. I would say, obviously this is a boring pick, but I'm just going to pick it anyways. For those that haven't looked at the previews, go to the community page and check out the new box of content.
Yeah.
And the sweet 300 call-out video for the new stuff that's dropping. I wasn't able to catch it live, and so I watched it there, and I loved it. It was great. And so go check out the new models, check out all the new toys that we can buy.
Nice. Awesome. So for myself, I want to give a shout out to somebody who I know is close to Jack, to our buddy 2 Plus Tough, to Doug, who is about to make a big move in his life. He's sadly switching geographic. Well, sadly and happily. It's actually more happy for me.
Sad for me.
Yes. As he's leaving his current location, which is near the Rerolling Ones guys, and he's moving to a different part of the country. And he's going to be making the move to full-time content producer, basically, because of the sort of difference that will allow and what it'll allow him to do. And I, for one, completely support this. I mean, look, Doug makes some of the most wonderful, well-polished lore stuff around. Like if you're into AOS lore, for anybody who's ever said like, but I want to know more about AOS lore, there isn't enough lore. You're insane. Doug has made like a bajillion videos, and there's so much deep lore about everything. If you just want to go, if you just take the time to go find it, and Doug can be an excellent guide on that journey. But I'll link his most recent video where he talks about what he's doing. It's happening sort of at the end of the year, from what I understand. And I wish him all the best. I think it's fantastic. I think that if you like Doug, you like what he's doing, I'll link his videos. Go over there, support him, sub him, watch his stuff, sub to his Patreon if you can. Like he's a great guy, and you know he's one of the best of us. Like he really is just one of the nicest human beings you will meet. And I say that even though he couldn't come visit me when I was in his area, and the rest of the Rerolling Ones crew did. All right, Jack was there. Shu came down. You know, I'm saying like those guys made the trip.
He like bailed last minute too. He was like, it's not like he was excited to come. He was like, I'll get him next time. Don't worry.
But it might put him in more like in some of the Midwest events as well.
Yes,
possibly.
That's right.
Which like.
Yeah,
yes.
Now, Doug, that you're coming to the wonderful Midwest, the greatest part of the country, all other parts of the United States, Midwest, mid-best. My advice is now you're on the hook to come to every fantastic Midwest event. So we'll expect to see you there.
All the narrative events, it'll be great.
Yep, everything. Yep. There's no escaping it. You're not going to have Jack there dragging you along anymore. So now it's going to be Tom and I dragging you along. We'll pick up the Jack banner here.
Thank you.
We won't let you down, buddy.
Like not to throw shade at Coach, but Doug was gonna be my pick, but he hit his Kickstarter. You know, I'm like, I can't promote a Kickstarter that he smashed in one day. So congratulations to Doug. He's like along with you guys. I call you guys my like Warhammer Sherpas, because when I got back into Warhammer, I just followed your lead, and you drug me up the mountain, and I found Doug and found that he lived close to me. And you guys provide such a fantastic service to people who are interested in Warhammer. And so thank you. Thank Doug. Thank Tom. Thank Vince. Thank you all. And Absolutely. Then I decided to become a content creator, and now thank me as well.
There you go. That's right. Thank you. Thank you, Jack. All right. So let's turn to some hobby time, guys. Jack, I think I already know the answer, but what are you working on, man?
Khorne. I am so at Rerolling Ones, we are doing a seasons now. We wanted to do it at the beginning of the year, but then of course, you know, the pandemic, we had to shut down. And so rather than playing armies that we kind of know the rules to, you know, because we don't want to get the rules wrong. It just happened. You know, you try to play 8 different armies and you forget to do this, you forget to do that. We're like, all right, let's choose the same army, play it in like a kind of tournament style, little narrative campaign. And I chose Khorne, and I've loved it so much because I went from being a player who played Khorne to being like a Khorne player, where I realized that Blood Tithe isn't just for summoning a Bloodthirster when you get 8 of them.
Yeah.
Therefore, you know, movement in your movement phase and all this cool stuff and so I'm like obsessed with Khorne again, but I'm sad because the season's almost over, and so I'll have to make a new army and get obsessed with that. But yeah, and it's cool because Rerolling One it's not really a competitive channel, and so I'm working on stuff that you never see, like the 2 Wrathmongers Skull Grinder Battalion,
Gotcha.
Or the two Skull Reapers Battalion, and just doing stuff, and like I'm painting up Scar Bloodwrath because he's really good competitively as well.
Yeah.
Being able to teleport when you die and stuff. So I'm obsessed with Khorne. I'm trying to get so much done, but I have to play Shu Sunday, and I'm like, I'm trying to paint as much as I can, but I'm excited. So Khorne is on the table.
I think that battalion with Wrathmongers and the hero you mentioned, what's his name? It escaped me. Grinder. Yeah, thank you. The Skull Grinder is just called people who swing outrageously large things around on chains that you probably shouldn't swing. The You'll Put Your Eye Out battalion, I think, is what that's called. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Tom, need I even ask? What? You're on vacation, so you have a justification this week for not doing any hobby.
That is correct. I've sold 2 more models.
Good.
Yeah, I don't know. I got to thinking about it today. Like, what am I gonna do next? And I have some KO that I need to finish, just for my own sanity. But I could see myself painting up some snakes. Like I enjoyed my snake army, or I enjoyed my scheme for my snakes. It'll drive me insane if I do it. Like it's truly a hobby project if I do like the patterning on all my snakes. But I don't know. I might do it.
Okay. Right on. Right on. Yeah, I mean, I think we're all waiting to see what those Iron Scales rules are, right? Because if that's actually like a good command ability in any way that helps snakes, like if it's a +1 to attack to your profile thing where you'd get like 2 crystal touches or something, I'd be like, oh, snakes are real! Snakes are real! It's on now! It is on now! That's all it would take. It's like that little thing, and I would be in for those glass cannons to just roll forward. All right. For myself, let me see if I can explain what I've been doing. So this is a sheet of paper. You two won't be able to see it, but I'm going to hold it up to the audience here. So this is a sheet of paper, and can you see where that says 25 and then 225 and 32 and then 42 and then 60 by 35 and 15 and so on and so forth? This is the number of bases that I had to make to rebase my Skaven. So this is about 300 bases. In other words, I needed 225 25 mil bases, 42 32 mil bases, 15 60 by 35s, and so on down the list, right? And one 92 by 52 or whatever because of Thankwol. That's right. Thankwol is on this weird, tiny, large cavalry base for some reason. I also had to make a bunch of 105 by 70s. That's weird. Those are with the Doom wheels on, not on the full chariot base. Anyway, so I did that. And I decided to do that in the most obnoxious way possible, which was by, of course, I could just put mud on a bunch of bases, but why would you do that when I could make sewer bases? So I, would roll out, so I rolled them all out with like cobblestone stuff, so I had to put like clay on them and then roll them all out, and some of them don't get the full roll, some of them have like little bricks where they'll have water beside them or whatever, and pipes and things coming out. For this army that's not a tournament army and will never leave my house and I don't care about, because I'm a psychopath and I have a problem and I'm a masochist. But I have them all and they're all done. I need to do a couple more the big chariot bases. That's the only thing I have left. The big like 120 by, the big 120 bases. 120 by 92. That's the only thing. I have all the bases. I just haven't got to roll them out yet. As a point of fact, this is a thing of I couldn't use Milliput for that because obviously it'd be like $1 million. So I used some DOS modeling clay. This is the air dry clay, which was really easy for this purpose. If you can see how much is left in this package, this was full when I started. So that's like that much clay gone.
Okay, is Beast of Chaos next? Because I know they're still on squares too, right?
No, all my beasts are on rounds. The problem with all my beasts are on rounds. I had to look. There's one old Gorgon I had painted up a long time ago who's on a square. So I could rebase him sometime. But I mean, I have 3 other Gorgons on the correct base, and the actual need in Beasts of Chaos to use 4 Gorgons has just not been coming up recently.
Tell the new book when they're battle line. There you go.
Yeah, the Skaven are literally the last current army that isn't like retired that was on squares. Because I mean, I still have all my Tomb Kings, but they're retired over in my archive shelves, not in my office shelves. They're in my museum. They're on squares, and then the Bretonians are all on squares, obviously. So
side note, now do you guys play anything that's in Legends at all, or is everything you guys play match play current? Because I always like when I hear things like, oh, it's deprecated or it's gone, and I'm like, there's rules. It's like, I get it if you don't go to a tournament, you won't play, but I'm still, if I play with a friend, I'll still play with stuff that is no longer match play legal. Like I have a Excelsior War Priest and stuff like that, where I'm like, okay, this is gone now, but I'm not gonna throw it away. I can still play with it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, personal stance. For the most part, I use my look, I've got 16 armies and only like 2 of them have been put into Legends, so it's not like I'm hurting for choice here. But
Mhm.
but yeah, I get out my Tomb Kings at least once a year or once or twice a year just to play them because they're fun. Like it's just
Mhm.
fun to drag them out.
Nope. I don't. Nope. I don't. I like if it gets moved um, to like the historic or legends. I don't touch it.
Okay.
Just because for me, and so like if I use it end up as a proxy for something else.
Sure.
Um, just simply because like I want as much play time to reflect the current environment,
Mhm.
just so that I have like, even though it's redundant experience sometimes, like I want to internalize as much as possible. And so what I don't want is to clutter up my head with rules or with things like that that just don't exist in the current meta. Like, and that, but that's just me. Like, and so like even my old dwarves, like dwarf warriors and stuff like that. What I've done with those is like I use them as long beards or stuff like that. So
Okay.
Yeah, I mean
yeah,
it's easier. It's easier with something like the Tomb Kings because it's a whole army that was shuttled
Mhm.
off, right? So like when I get them out, it's a holistic experience. Like I'm playing Grand Alliance Death. I'm playing all Tomb Kings models. Like I purposely make an all Tomb Kings army. Like I don't actually mix in any other stuff. You know what I mean? Like I play the generic Tomb King Lord on Chariot, like Exalted Tomb King Lord on Chariot, and yeah, the Cetra model basically, right?
Mhm.
And so on and so forth. And it's fun. Like because a lot of my games are friendly games as well, like you mentioned. Like we do a lot of three-way games and four-player games and friendly games. So, it's like they're totally doable and competitive in that kind of environment. Would I take them to a tournament or something? No. But
Yeah.
that's not what their purpose is. They're there for me to have fun.
but at the same time, like even my Tomb Kings, if I put them on the table, I would use them as OVR.
Yeah, sure, but
Okay.
you don't have 13,000 points of Tomb Kings.
I have like 10. Does
Painted?
that count?
No, because yours aren't painted.
Nope.
I
How
have
did you
that
get to
much painted, Tom.
13,000? I thought I was bad. I remember Tom, I think, mentioned how many points he had in something. And I calculated my cities of Sigmar, and I had about 8,000. And I was just like, that's too much. It is too much stuff. How'd you get to 13,000 in Tomb Kings?
Step one.
It's because he has all the kitty cats in the world.
Yeah, step one, have 9 sphinxes. That's a good way to start.
Okay.
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 And then just go to asinine levels from there. Like I have 26 Ushabti. Okay. So like there's a good that's a lot of points, right? I have
No
15
one in
snakes.
the world. No one else in the world has 26 Ushabti.
I there's if there's I don't know, that could be true. That could very well be true. But yeah, I mean, like it's just that like I collected them for so long and to such an excessive degree because I snatched a bunch up on the cheapity cheap back at the fall of fantasy into AOS. Like people were clearing them out, baby. Those were fire sale prices, and so like, I mean, I was getting the Sphinx parts, okay, for like $1 per main part. So like the body for $1, the head for $1, the legs for $1, the tail
Okay.
for $1. So when you're building $8 sphinxes, it's a good deal.
Yeah, was that our old bit site that we
Yeah.
used to
Yeah.
they went out?
There
Yeah.
was a bit site that Tom and I used to love that what they would do is they would just break open kits and they would put the entire kit up on auction. Not buy now for a price. They would put every bit in the kit up on auction starting at 99 cents.
Mhm. Oh, wow.
Okay. And so what you would do is I would just like add every time they would put up a new thing, like twice a week they would add everything up. I would just watch a ton of the bits. And then I would just have my notifications on, and when they got down to like the last 20 minutes, I would find all the ones that no one had bid on, and then with like 5 minutes left, I'd be like bid $2, bid $2, bid $2, bid $2, bid $2, bid $2, and I'd win just all the ones that no one bid on. All right, and just snatch them.
Okay. How big is your closet of shame? Just the unpainted stuff?
Not
Because
really that
just.
big.
Oh, really? Okay.
Vince doesn't have a closet like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
like
Realistic. Yeah.
I have stuff
Okay.
for like I keep a fair amount of stuff on hand for like teaching classes because I have to. Like it just happens like in a normal year, I'll have to, going to like 3 or 4 conventions and teaching. I have to have something like 50 or 60 figs per convention, or some version of those, right? Or like shields or stuff like that. So I have a huge bit slot or extra figs or teaching figs. But like actual stuff waiting to be built, like just unpainted stuff, I have not that much. Yeah, not that much at all. There's a few there. There's a couple hangovers that I really want to get done. Like I've got 10 Chaos Knights sitting there that are just dogging me because they're such complicated models. I've got 2 more Varangard, and I'm just like, ugh. Like I converted one into like a mounted Chaos Lord, non-demonic mount, and I was like, oh god, I don't have it in me to paint these things. 2 more of these things. They're just so time consuming.
Oh, like you mentioned one of the coolest things I did, because I have a total of 6, and so there's me, Brent, and Shu, my brother Greg, our friend who cranky old gamer, and Doug from 2 Plus Tough, and I was like, all right, there's 6 Vanguards, 1 for each of us, and Vanguard are like champions from different Chaos Gods, and so we each painted one up.
Yeah.
And so I actually excited to. I gotta base them, but I'm excited to get those on the channel because they're so beautiful. But I don't want to paint another one, so I feel you, Shu. I mean, Vince. Sorry.
Yeah. No, there's a couple of old kits I have around that I don't know if I'll ever paint, but I keep them for nostalgia more than anything. For example, I have like the Bear Men from the Dogs of War set, like that. I have that original new in box. I have a new in box set of Bretonnian Grail Knights. Just stuff like that. Like I don't know if I would ever paint those. I'm sure I could sell them, but I kind of just like owning them. It's very much like dragony horde behavior, where I just like I want to sit on my little treasure. Like I know that, but but I love them because they're like a little memory for me. But no, for the most part, I focus very hard on clearing that crap out.
That's awesome.
For me, like I have like 1 or 2 units of dock. Like I have let me say this. I have like 2 cauldrons left. I have like 2 cauldrons that I still haven't painted with the appropriate snakes on them. That's all my dock. I have functionally an entire squig army. I have an entire spider army. And by spider army, I mean like converted like scuttlings, like the grot scuttlings. Yep. So I have like 120 of those for conversions to do an entire spider army. I have 60 some squig hoppers and all that I need to do something with. And then I have like the rest of my night haunt that I need to paint up. And then I have like, that's my current stuff. I have a bunch of fire slayers all in process, like in various degrees of like painting. And I have a little bit of chaos, but I've sold most of that. It's a little bit of Slaves to Darkest left. But I mean, I've liquidated a lot of my backlog of stuff. And then I have in box, in storage, I have like 10,000 points of high elves and 10,000 points, like 10 to 15,000 points of high elves and 10 to 15,000 points of 2Ks.
Yeah. So, and somebody asked in the comments, is the Tomb King still the army I have the most of? The answer is yes. The second of which being Skaven. Which leads to the other thing I did. Wasn't just making bases. I'm also converting a model. So this is my AOA hero. This is my Doom tank, which will lead my Doom Wheel Brigade. This is my 400 point hero in modified Doom Wheel. He's got his little warpstone drills in the front and guns and a little back thing. And this is going to be my little Doom tank. That they stole a steam tank and added more parts and stuff like that, and I thought it'd be a fun leader for my Doom Wheel army. So there you go.
You didn't get enough salt from your Tempest Die army?
No, man. I can't stop taking 40k bits and bringing them into AOS. I can't stop myself.
It was great.
Yeah. So it's fun, and like the fun part was just finding bits to use for this. Like this is hacked up of. Like the gun mounts on the top are the arms. Like this little piece right here is the arm from the Amble, like the 40k Amble kit, like flipped upside down. These are the little drills in the front are the arm drills from the Storm Fiends. Just fun stuff like that. So yeah, it was cool. Just throwing bits around, right? Good times.
Oh, so if anybody's on the fence about becoming a content creator, one of the benefits is you get first crack at when Tom sells stuff.
That is true. That is absolutely true.
I mean, you're not wrong. Like when I want to liquidate, I go to people who like I know that so that I don't have to get hit with like eBay fees. I'll send it, to a small list of folks that I know. Like, do you all want any of this before I open it up to the broader market? So it's true.
Yep. All right. So, gentlemen, enough of all that. Let's get to blood for the blood god. Let's turn to Khorne. So, let's start at a high-level view. If we're going to call this show Fixing Khorne, then that assumes there is something wrong with Khorne. So let's at first define the problem, okay? So, Jack, what do you think Khorne's current position is / current problems, challenges, opportunities, whatever buzzword you'd like to use, are?
Well, this is something I've heard from people where I a little push back on a little bit. They say it doesn't play like you think Khorne should play. Mm-hmm. I've heard people say, I wanted to play like Daughters of Cain or like Ironjaw or something where you're in there.
I've said that many times, yes.
Yeah. But I always think of when I hear that, I'm like, this isn't Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Mm-hmm. Like, I like to get rid of everything from there because it's a whole new world, dazzling place that I've never known. And so you're in this new world, and so things can change. So I'm not really hung up on it doesn't play like it should play.
Okay.
One thing it is from first edition to this now, it's like they lost a lot of run and charge. It is a very slow army, mm-hmm. and it doesn't have any protection from because shooting is making a huge comeback. When I was hearing or reading what Tyler Emerson was saying about some of the new shooting meta coming out, it's just like that's not a place where Khorne is going to really survive or even thrive in. And so it is a melee army that has some tricks, but it definitely needs help. So I put it in the fat middle, which I love that term that you coined. I put it in the lower end actually, and so it needs help just because it's not very durable and it's not very fast.
Yeah. No, I think that's dead on. Tom?
They're what I would describe as like an early AOS 2.0 design. So like even when they got updated, they kept the mentality of the early design, which is like tight, wholly within 12-inch bubbles.
Yeah.
Or, with a handful of 18-inch buffing bubbles. And just the reality is that is a very restrictive structure for an army to function in, especially when their pieces are easily removed with shooting.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of 12-inch bubbles. They have a couple 8-inch bubbles, right? It is a very much like a. I think my general take on it. We might be losing Tom. We'll see if his internet. Oh, the storm has hit. We'll see. He's back. All right, Tom's back. Here's my thought. When I say Khorne doesn't play like I feel like it, because I've said that many times, Jack, what you said, like it doesn't feel like Khorne to me. And I will agree with you that statement is like heavily loaded, right? Because that assumes that there is some platonic form of Khorne, right? That I'm comparing it against. That it was at some point in the past, or that it was in my mind, or whatever. And those kind of comparisons against imaginary things are always fraught with challenge, right? But let me see if I can defend the line a little bit, because I do think that one of the major challenges is that when you picture Khorne in your head, I actually don't think it would play like Doc. I very much think it would play like maybe Ironjaws. Like, okay, imagine you were a new player and I explained to you the Chaos Gods. Right? I just explained to you who they are and what they do. Mm-hmm. And then I handed you, with the pictures and names removed, the Ironjaw's War Scrolls and said, this is the Khorne army. Right? Like, all the names are hidden. Like, I just imagine I rewrite some names over things, right? And Wrathmongers, I just write the word Wrathmongers over Brutes. and I write the word Blood Warriors over Ard Boys. You get what I'm saying? Like, picture that. Picture that swap, okay? It would be a much smaller army.
Juggernauts over your pigs. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Juggernaut, like the Skull Crushers or Blood Crushers or whatever, over the pigs. And I said, and then I showed you the army, again, sans names, and said, this is Khorne. Somebody would go, I have to imagine that new player would be like, yeah, that all checks out, right? Like, everything makes sense to me, right? This is how I would feel like Khorne
even the
would
big
play.
wall mechanic. Even the big wall mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So I think here's the ultimate challenge to me, and maybe it is a misperception. Khorne, in the way that it's construed in the book, is a very synergistic force, ostensibly. Now, we can talk about how successful it is at that, right? Like, I would argue not very, okay? Because it relies on a lot of, like, ever-present bubbles, as opposed to, like, Doc, which is more like, here's a buff, here's a buff, here's a buff, go, right? So there's the difference in buff armies is when they can just, like, tap, tap, tap on a unit, and then shoot that unit forward like a pinball, and let it just, you know, boom, and just like watch it wreck until it explodes.
Right, and that's what Doc does, and it does it well.
Yes. Whereas Khorne has similar levels of synergy in theory, but a lot of it relies on like heroes staying alive and being in bubbles even after charges and even after pile-ins, and those are like 12-inch bubbles, right? And it's just like it's a lot of that where the hero has to be kind of moving with there. It's not affecting everybody in the same way. It's more this like careful constellation like ballet you need to execute with Khorne, right? Where your heroes are moving
like trudging forward.
Yeah.
With no real anvils.
Yeah, I mean, which is fine. Like, if I said, describe to me the Khorne army, if somebody said, well, it doesn't have any anvils, I'd be like, well, yeah, that checks out, right? I guess. Right. But I'm not sure that, like, Skull Crushers aren't anvils at the same time. Skull Crushers are, like, 5-wound dudes on a 3-up save.
Yeah, they're like a hero.
That are like real cheap.
Cast heroes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're real cheap. Like, Skull Crushers are real cheap, right? And also, like, I think for this, when we talk about fixing Khorne, I think we're going to restrict ourselves to the Khorne book specifically. Because there is another problem here that the the best Khorne unit right now doesn't occur in the Blades of Khorne book.
Totally. You gotta get some Archeon and some like Marauders.
Oh, Archeon, you're so good in Khorne.
Like Archeon or Marauders, yes, obviously, yes. And thank you, the Harrower, who said, yeah, bronzed flesh unit of Skull Crushers at 2+. And I agree. I think that's actually a solid anvil.
Marauders are pretty good.
No, Marauders are amazing. Yes, obviously, but that is the best unit in Khorne. That's the best unit in almost any Chaos Force right now, and that's the problem. Like, obviously, Marauders are bent, so we can...
It's fine.
It's fine. I played a unit of 20 Marauders this last weekend in a game, and I watched them just run around the board and slaughter things, and I was like, I feel dirty. I'm never doing this again. Like, it encouraged me to paint those Chaos Knights more than anything else, so I could have something else to run that wasn't those stupid Marauders. I just didn't even like running them. It wasn't fun. Okay. So, anyways... as I was just like, well, I need an 11-inch charge on this. Yep, got it. No problem. That was easy.
I got a question for you, Vince. Now, you hate the Marauder sculpt. Are the Marauders you use that sculpt? Or
no, I use Blood Reavers.
Oh, yeah, because I love Tom mentioned that he uses that as the...
and that's what I do with my Marauders. And, like, they're the right answer. Now, Khorne, obviously, there's a catch-22 there. Because, like, that's a Khorne unit.
Right.
And so, like, I wouldn't feel right about functionally you're proxying at that point.
See, like, this unit I'm putting on the table, it's a real Khorne unit, but unfortunately it's bad. So instead, it's going to be this other unit that it looks very much like, but is in fact the way better version of this.
Right. Like, so like I wouldn't do that with Khorne marked. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do that because they're Nurgle, and I make them Nurgle. But yeah, Khorne's in a tough spot.
Does it help that I was running it under Slaves to Darkness allegiance, not under Khorne allegiance? All right. Just checking.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Cool. Excellent. All right. So let's do this. I think there's one more problem in Khorne, okay? And it's something we've touched on. Let's again. So from this point on in the conversation, we're gonna go. Whoop, we're gonna just push the slaves to darkness right on out of here. They're not in this discussion. We're saying Blades of Khorne alone, the stuff that's in that book. Okay, we know. I know that we could also talk Beasts of Chaos and then that battalion. We could talk like but we're not. We're whoop, that's all gone. Okay, so the other problem is there is way too much stuff in Khorne. It's just way too much of the same stuff, right? They have like a Skaven level of scrolls, but not near the versatility of like a Skaven or a Cities of Sigmar type army, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have, I'm just going to round up here conservatively. I think they have about 73 heroes that are all 5-wound combat heroes, right? They have...
Same one. It's like it is like they seem to be the only guys who kept their special characters,
right?
Like, or no as well. Like Chaos kept their special characters, like except for Skaven. I love Dick and Claw. I love Quick Head Taker. I'm like, why couldn't they bring these guys? I don't care about this. The Chaos Spawn guy. I've never seen anybody use him.
Right.
But I'm just like, yeah. So there is a bloat. There is definitely bloat.
Yeah, there is super bloat because they have not Marauders, right, in the Blood Reavers. They have not Chaos Warriors in their own special, Blood Warriors, right? Like, they have not those other things. But those other things still exist. They're still out there. And they're not differentiated enough. And one of the things that can easily happen is, just like what happened with Blood Reavers and Marauders, is if the other scroll gets better and can be marked Khorne, then you just completely invalidated that unit, right? Like, there's just no point. They're basically the same unit. Right? Especially functionally role-wise, they're sort of the same unit. The fact that you've got all the mortals, all the demons, and you've got some keyword bingo, we should not miss the keyword bingo. The fact that there is a good amount, like they thought original Khorne had too much synergy because we've gotten like 3 Khorne books. And so, one version had too much synergy, and then they were like, okay, well, we've got to wheel it back. So we did that. We went through this phase where we were playing, like, hardcore keyword bingo. And you see that in Blades, and you see that in Gits, both of whom came out around the same time. Gits. And it's just too much of, like, this guy only affects, these demons, and this guy's only these types of mortals, and so on and so forth. Right? And that's not even counting the fact that, yes, we have... How many Lords of Change are there?
There's 2.
Exactly. The generic guy and the named guy. How many Keepers of Secrets are there?
2.
the generic guy and the named guy. Okay. How many Great Unclean Ones are there?
I see where you go. There's 2.
Mm-hmm. There's the generic one and the named one, right? Now, given the generic one in GUO, the generic GUO is quite versatile, right? Because he can be built with a lot of different weapon loadouts and yada, yada, yada. Even with Bloodthirsters, though, we had to get, 5 different Bloodthirsters or whatever, if you count the Exalted guy. And,
true.
And all of whom just have, like, some slightly different stuff when they could have just had, it could have been one scroll with a weapon loadout, right? That just does something useful at a singular points total, right? Or whatever. So, like, this entire army is, like, there's too much of this stuff. There's just too much of everybody getting in each other's way, trying to be the same thing. Blood Crushers are always worse than Skull Crushers, or whatever, like, universally, right? But they're just the same thing. One is a demon guy on a Juggernaut, one is a mortal guy on a Juggernaut, right? But one is clearly better than the other, okay? So it just, you see that happen over and over and over again, where you've got 4 different units, all with the same role, all the same type of unit, like a punchy melee unit or whatever. One of them wins out, that makes the other 4 crap, right? Or something like that is what ends up happening. And that's a shame. So, I mean, let's get into the fixing part, but I'll tell you right now, I think one of the ways that would be one of the first things you should do to fix this army, but we can't do it. We can't do it. Cannot be done. But one of the first things I would do is I would cut about 30%, 20 to 30% of the war scrolls in this army.
Yeah, when, like, you want to cull some stuff, get rid of it, but then you get to like people like, oh, they got rid of my. I have a friend who they'll like, oh, this model is no longer usable, and like the rage at like a model getting deprecated, and I'm just like, it's sitting in your closet unpainted,
Right.
you know, but that's not for everybody. Like, if I painted up a whole unit and now it's like Legends or something, I'd feel definitely, but hopefully you get over it. But yeah, it definitely needs some culling.
Yeah, I mean, in my world, what I would do, and part of the problem here is this would become tough because of what's happening on some of these scrolls. But I wouldn't like just to get rid of anybody's figs. Instead, I would kind of roll them all into one. Like, there's probably 5 different Khorne heroes that could just be one Khorne hero, right?
Mm.
Like, we could take the aspiring Deathbringer and the exalted Deathbringer and, like, you know, people like this. There's probably more. I have to think of other people like that. The Skull Grinder, okay? Now Slaughter Priest can stay. There you go. Those 3. Let's take those 3 for now, okay? All those guys, they're one scroll now. They're one scroll with one set of weapon, like, with just different weapon options, right? And they have one useful thing they do. You can use any, and
Yeah,
like,
change their loadouts. It's fine.
the problem is you'd need like 9 weapon loadouts, because the problem is almost every one of those has 2 to 3 weapon loadouts that you can build them with.
I mean, it can be done. Have you seen the KO book?
What if you don't lose any of those heroes? They just lose is it the leader keyword or the hero keyword, where you can take them?
Yeah, sure.
But they don't take one of those 6.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. You
I
keep
would love that.
you keep hero and you get rid of leader. That's what they did with Karnak. That way he just becomes another unit who's still a hero.
Yeah, do that with all those, the Gore Chosen. Just like, all right, you guys aren't leaders yet, because that's the path to glory or whatever you're on. So you can have 8 of them if you want,
Yep. So, and just to answer your question, Harrower, because he said, I don't agree with calling stuff make the war scrolls make sense. That's tough because they're all melee dudes. Your point of saying compare to Skaven, yeah, sure, Skaven have 52,000 heroes, and they're all extremely different, because one guy is like a utility buff thing for your ranged units, and one guy is like a melee dude meant to advance with the units, and one guy is a caster who sits there with utility, area battle shock immunity, and one guy is a deep range, teleport assassin, and one guy is an ambush dude that doesn't even start on the board. Like, you're not going to have that versatility in Khorne. You're not going to have the I'll sit back and buff the ranged units guy in Khorne, right? And it doesn't make sense, and it's not thematically appropriate. That being said, I think I can answer this, okay? So I'm going to throw out, like, if we get too deep into the specifics immediately, then we're going to get lost, right? Because I've seen people in the pre-show chat in response to Twitter and everything saying, like, well, here's the things you need to do. This is all you need to do. You just need to do these 3 things, right? Like, or the whatever. And it's 3, like, very specific tactical things always get thrown out. You know what I mean? Like, just change this scroll and do this thing and add this allegiance ability and the army's fixed. That's not fixing an army. That's band-aiding an army, right?
Yeah. With Slaanesh, like, oh, just shoot the heroes. Like, what? I don't have shooting. What do I do?
Right, exactly. I want to fix this army and make it, like, functionally unique. Make it what it is, right? I want to truly fix it. And so, in my mind, like, but here's what I'll say. The right answer is probably calling a big part of the line. But we're never going to do that. That would never happen. So it doesn't matter. So we're going to just take that off the table and say, okay, we've got to keep everything, right?
Can I touch the elephant in the room, though?
Yeah, sure, man.
Which is just simply the reality that, like, there's not a strong differentiation between what the demons are doing and what the mortals are doing. Like, when I think about the Juggernaut Riders, so the Blood Crushers and the is it just the Juggernauts? Skull Crushers and what, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Skull Crushers and Blood Crushers, yes. Or, Bloodletters versus whatever. Yeah, Skull Taker versus a different hero. Sure, whatever, fine.
Sure, like, my big critique is that there's just no functional difference between the demons and the mortals other than the synergies within the army. And so what ends up happening is you end up building all mortals or all demons, oftentimes, simply because that's where the synergies are. And you don't end up with a significantly different army.
I agree. And that's a problem. What I want to see is Khorne. I want to see those. One, completely agree. That was going to be one of my points too. There's not enough differentiation in feel, role, and purpose between the demon units and their like mortal units, compatriots, whatever we want to say, right? So, let's take some cracks at this, okay? Here, I'm going to fix all the heroes at once. All the like, foot heroes at once. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here we go. So this is like all your mortal heroes, I should say. This is the previously mentioned, like, Aspiring Deathbringer, Exalted Deathbringer, whatever. Like, we'll get to utility heroes in a minute, but your Skull Grinder, all those dudes. You're I meant to punch people in melee heroes. Probably Scar too, but he's like a special character, so whatever. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of all of their synergy with other units. None of those guys, those guys, I'm cutting all their command abilities. They're gone. They're out of here. Jettisoning them. No longer are they there. Okay? Second thing I'm going to do is exactly what you said, Jack. Okay? We're going to jettison the leader role from those guys. Okay? They don't have leader anymore. They're just other units. Right? So that's step 2. No command ability, but they don't take a leader slot anymore. Okay? Next thing I'm going to do with all of them is I'm going to jack their offensive power up. Right? They're going to be scary in melee, but I'm not going to make them any more defensive. They're as defensive as they are. 4-ups, 5-up saves, whatever. That's it. That's what they get. Okay? And I'm going to borrow something from Underworlds. You mentioned Underworlds earlier. Have you ever played Underworlds at all, Jack?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you know that all your cards have a flip condition, right? Like an evolve condition, right?
Yep.
And each army has its own little evolve conditions. Yeah, where like in the skeleton dudes, it's when they die, they come back, right? They come back better and yada yada yada, right? Fulfill some condition, you get the better version of the thing. Okay. So all of those Khorne foot heroes are just meant to be melee little individual stompers, and they all have an evolve condition. And the evolve condition is when they kill people in melee. Okay?
Right.
And, you know, some of them could trigger on heroes or monsters or anybody or units or multi-wound models or whatever. We can construe this in 100 different ways. It doesn't matter. That's an engineering problem. And once they kill people, then, boom, you gain access to Khorne's Blessing. Okay? And Khorne's Blessing turns them up to 11. All right? Like, suddenly, these little 5-wound heroes all become little mini Gotreks out there just like just tornadoes of blood wrecking things, right? That people have to deal with that are worth, 10 times their weight in blood, right?
So something like double attacks and +1 damage.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yep, exactly. Khorne is like, as a god, is one of the most involved chaos gods in his followers. Okay, like he takes an interest. That's what like Blood Tithe often represents, with like the rain coming down and healing people, the Crimson Rain or whatever, or his big angry comet or whatever, right? Like Khorne, perhaps most amongst the chaos gods, has like this sort of fickle temper with his people. He will just like there was a great end time story there that was happening in the Wood Elves woods, where Khorne just started like dropping hot fireballs everywhere because he was real angry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think having their heroes have a direct line to the blessing of Khorne that like supercharges them when they please him by feeding skulls to his skull throne, to me makes sense, right? That's yeah, exactly. Each of the heroes would have a different trigger condition. You could have a cool battalion of them. Think of this almost like all of those heroes would become what's the Gabapalooza, right?
Oh, sure.
Right.
Like imagine.
But they don't have to be taken together. Just you can take them together in the battalion if you want, but you can take them individually.
Imagine if all those heroes, anytime a unit was destroyed within 3 inches, let's say, so they're in melee. What if they just like healed all remaining wounds, all remaining damage?
Sure.
Like a shower of gore or whatever, like replenishing shower, or I don't know what you want to call it. But you get the idea, where like they actually become like a threat that you need to like to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not only from the damage standpoint, but like you can't splash mortal wound them if they keep healing.
Well, I would just put it like this. I would just have it be a one flip condition, like literally a flip, almost like a flip card, right? Where when you satisfy the trigger for the Blessing of Khorne, you heal all wounds and blah da 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 da, right? All of the heroes now get this super ability. And that fixes all of those non-purposed heroes into a defined role, right? They're mini bullies. They're cheaper mini bullies.
And they generate blood tithe when they die.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. You're incentivized to take them because they're potential blood tithe points in waiting that can punch way above their weight in damage, who have a very who have to be answered as mini bullies, right? Because if people ignore them and let them get in amongst their line and actually do damage and like clear chaff or kill a part of a unit and transform, they suddenly become a real big problem sitting in the middle of your line, right? Suddenly all those heroes have a function. So there you go. That's my first fix. It fixes all of those heroes at once. Do it for like all the things I just mentioned. Right? All right. That's me. That's my first pitch. Okay. Jack, you go.
I have a pitch. Allegiance ability. I'd call it Berserk Fury, or basically there's a lot of 32 mils bases in the Khorne army.
Yeah.
With a 1-inch range. If you're it would be if you have the Khorne keyword, you get +1 to your range if you're in melee combat. Yep. Letting Blood Reavers become more valuable, maybe, and then like Blood Warriors, Blood Letters, everything. If they're in melee combat, they get +1 to their range. So now you're fighting in 2 ranks and not just restricted, and that would make them more viable in combat. Because a lot of Khorne is just like you're going back to. It doesn't feel like they're not killing. There's no rend, there's no all this, but I think if you got more bodies in there, because you can really get Blood Reavers up to like 5 attacks each.
Sure.
And if now you're doing that in 2 rows, it might be.
Yeah, I agree. I think that one of the so I think a thing GW hasn't reckoned with yet that they really need to reckon with is just how valuable a 25 mil base is.
Yes.
Right? Here's what I'll say. Here's my honest take. Here's my hot take of the night, somewhat unrelated to Khorne. I would just love to retire all 25 mil bases.
Change the game.
Okay. I wish that when we had seen them originally, we hadn't had 25s and we hadn't had 32s. I wish all of that size unit was on 28s. Okay. I wish that had been the one, and that's a base that gets used in like Warcry, right? I wish that had just been the base. Because as it stands right now, and by the way, again, we're way past this point. We can't do it. People would lose their minds and yada, yada, yada. And just like, it's just not going to happen. But 25 mil bases are such a huge...
with the new edition, you could get away with it with the new edition.
People would revolt. If you said like, hey, you know those 225 25 mil bases I just rolled out? Okay. Jettison all of those. You gotta redo all your clan rats again. I would lose my ever-loving mind. And that's the problem, right? And yes, I understand everybody what I'm saying. That's like, I get it. People are already, like literally in the comments right now, people are losing their minds. Folks, this isn't gonna happen. Relax. I'm not the base police, okay? I'm saying it would have been a great idea if we had done it originally. We didn't, and now it's too late. We're down this road, okay? So, if we're down this road, right, then, like, everybody in the comments just immediately like, rabble, 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 my goblins! And I'm like, yeah, guys, I get it. It's cool, man. Again, 225 clan rats I just made bases for. I got finished. My hand and wrist are tired from taking a razor blade and scraping the edge of all of them. Because I had to cut around every base. I'll cut the extra clay off. So yeah, I get it. I'm going to have carpal tunnel syndrome. Anyways, if we're already down this road, then we need to take into account how much it matters when you've got an army like Khorne where nearly everything is on like 32s and 40s. Right? And again, like, let's imagine Blood Reavers had the exact same rules. Like, it was just a copy of the Marauder War Scroll. Okay? Top to bottom. Exactly the same rules. All right, but they said, Khorne and Bloodbound and everything else, right? You'd still use Marauders every time because they're on a 25 mil base, right? So I love this rule, Jack. I love this rule. The idea of like giving a huge amount of your units an extra inch of reach, right? To where most of Khorne is just going beyond and fighting with 2-inch reach. By the way, I would accept it as like an allegiance ability or or even just rewriting the War Scrolls, by the by, to just most Khorne units are just 2-inch base range because of the swirl of melee and the fact that they're all like jumping over top of each other all the time and frenzied and going nuts, right? They're not fighting in like, I don't picture Khorne units fighting in like an organized phalanx, right? They're not marching up and being like, push. No, they're like, get out of the way. I want to kill him, right? They're elbowing their friends in the head to kill the person instead, right? So yeah, like I'm down with that. Giving them all that longer reach would compensate for one of these major challenges they have, right? You could do it like, yeah, you could do something like restricted to the charge, or you could do something like, or you could have it trigger on other sort of situations, right? There's lots of different ways it could go. So, yeah, I think Jack, you're dead on. I think you've identified a huge challenge, and I think that would be a long way to fixing it. I agree, and that's a great like systemic change that would also make it feel more corny, right? Which is always what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that like Melvin thing where the rule informs the aesthetic, informs the play experience, where it all becomes this unified column, and it makes you feel like you're in the verisimilitude of the thing. Okay, Tom, what do you got? What's your swing on deck here?
This is gonna probably not be received well. I would pull summoning out of Blood Tithe completely. And I would tie it in some way to the destruction of units by demons.
Okay. Oh, you're saying summoning itself becomes... So Blood Tithe is still Blood Tithe, it just remains Blood Tithe. But then there's a second mechanic here that has to do with like when demons kill stuff.
Or when things die near demons.
Okay.
When blood is shed near demons, like Born of Blood or something like that. And have like birthed out of dead units is summoned units. Or summoned units. Like, so when units, so as like, I don't want to say this. Or maybe it could be tied to Blood Tithe, but in some tangential way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Because what we don't see is there's not a purpose for demon units. In general, most of the good synergies outside of the Bloodthirsters are all coming from mortal, like, bloodbound units.
Yeah, sure.
And so I would love a reason to, like, when demons are murdering units or murdering units are being murdered nearby, having, like, bloodletters, like, sprout from the pools of blood of slain units. I think there's something there. And again, I don't know exactly what it is. Like, so on one hand, I'm thinking almost of the inverse of the Tzeentch horror problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So Tzeentch horrors are super effective in like splitting and multiplying and like bogging things down by being killed.
Yep, sure. Whereas they're getting it by killing. Yeah.
And that's what I want. Is I want something like that where their ranks are like being rejuvenated, being reinforced simply by the spilling of blood.
All right. I think you're like in the neighborhood of a really interesting idea there. I really do.
Okay.
But let's build on this a little bit. Jack, is it a problem that Blood Tithe empties when you spend it, regardless of how much you spend? Like, spend 2 points, you lose everything.
You lose everything. Yeah, that is. I think Khorne would be relatively in the same place if that rule went away. It seems like, and if you put it in line with the rest of the summoning mechanics, where it doesn't go away as soon as you spend it.
Sure.
Maybe still keep it to you only can spend it once per turn or whatever, but resetting to 0, I think is unnecessary.
Okay. So let me propose something to you. Let me throw a couple ideas out. I don't know which one of these is right, but let me throw a couple ideas out here to you. Okay. I think a lot of people take that that tack, right? Like, why doesn't Khorne get to save its points? Okay, and maybe it's because of the nature of Khorne. He's very hot-blooded. You know, whenever he grants a gift, it's like, this is what you get. This is what you want. This is what you get. Fine, I'll give it to you, and shut up. I don't want to hear from you again until you kill more. Right? Like, he's that kind of guy. He's like a dad, like a single parent dad who's been out at the park all day, and his kids are just yelling at him like they want cotton candy, they want cotton candy, they want cotton candy. Dad, can I have some cotton candy? Dad, give me some cotton candy. Dad, can I have some cotton candy? Fine! Fine. Here's your stupid cotton candy. Shut up. Just shut up. Okay? So maybe that's Khorne.
I relate to that.
Sure.
Yeah, me too.
So let me propose to you a solution. I think it is interesting that Khorne becomes an all or nothing proposition. The problem with that is that you're using this mechanic for so much. So in an average game, there is perhaps, let's say at the top end, 20 blood tithe points on the table to be gained, right? The average army consists of about 10 units. If there's 2 armies on the table, that means there's about 20 units, right? Okay, fine. So obviously you're not going to actually gain all those, because that would mean that all of your army died and all of their army died, so it's an asymptote, it's an impossible number, but we get the concept. So let me instead propose to you this. Let's say blood tithe still dumps when you spend it, okay? But when you spend it for an ability, let's say you also get to summon, okay? You get both. Instead of it being an either or, okay, you get both. But we lock it in just a little more. So Khorne not only sends his blessing in the form of the Crimson Rain or a big comet that damages people or allowing a unit to move impetuously or whatever, but each of those also has a summon directly attached to it, right? Where, like, if you spend for this, then this demon unit also shows up. Then this demon unit also shows up.
I'm in for that.
And so what it would mean is that, yes, you can spend a lower thing, you can dump, and you could still choose to take your up to the highest level of demons that you get or whatever. I don't know. We could figure it out, whether it needs to be kind of 2 operating independently, or you're forced to take X unit of demons if you spend Y thing. I don't know. I'd need to work on it. But the idea would be, I get the Benny, and then a free unit of demons shows up too. Every time, right? So it still dumps, but I get both. And it's no longer an either or. Because the blessing of Khorne not only comes in the form of whatever you asked for, but also in the form of more things to kill, right? To be skulls. That, to me, feels like the most Khorne thing. That his blessings would be handed out not just in the form of these bennies, but also in the form of, you know, more marauding forces of Khorne, right?
And GW would be happy because you have to go buy more models because you're wasting summoning if you don't get it. So yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah, that's an Autumn Lotus in the comments. I want to shout that out. He said that, or if you choose not to summon, you could get an even better buff. Yeah, I could see that too as like an option, right? Where it's like, normal level is this bonus, and you automatically get this level of demon. So if you spend on this thing, you move and you get 10 bloodletters. You move in the hero phase and you get 10 bloodletters. I don't know, whatever. I'm just picking a thing, right? Or 3 skull crushers or something. Okay. And then, instead, you choose, like, you don't want sorry, not skull crushers, blood crushers. I apologize. You don't take the blood crushers. Instead, you can, like, move double your move speed. Or whatever, you like, it'd be really easy to construe these, right?
Well, and not only that, like, you could take something like the Blood Throne, which has no function.
Which has no function at all.
And say something like, and if you do this, it steps it up automatically, or you get both. You get the upgrade, like, so it could have a passive, the Blood Throne could have a passive benefit to making the spending blood tithe better.
Yep. I hate the Blood Throne so much because I love the Blood Throne and want it to be good. I converted for my Khorne army like a massive Blood Throne, After I watched Mad Max Fury Road, I came home and converted a massive blood throne with like Doof Warriors playing drums and stuff. And
terrible model. It's the worst. Like it is the worst role. Let me say that.
The worst.
The worst is the worst.
Yeah, and like one, it should absolutely be a priest. Two, I don't know why. What it does. What like? Let me propose a simple solution to you here. Okay. In your hero phase, if the blood throne is on the table, you gain one point of blood tithe.
Boom.
Right? Isn't that just the solution? Like over the game, it's 5 blood tithe. Doesn't that work? I'm pretty sure that works. So like, then it would actually do something and be a super cool model and have value.
Sure, I'm in. Yeah. Okay, I'll take that too.
Yeah. So like, yes, just a priest that every round gives you 1 blood tithe. In the same way the dumb little herald gives you of Slaanesh gives you a free depravity every round. And there's like a million ways to gain depravity outside of actually damaging heroes in Slaanesh, right? So there you go. Fix that model too. That was a freebie. So there I think is where now, Tom, to return to your idea, what I liked about it was the idea that like the demons themselves are a sort of nexus of this like blood energy, right? And when they kill stuff. So one of the things that could differentiate the demons, okay, is like it feels like there should be a couple different strats in Khorne, and one of those strats should be going hard in on blood tithe, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like one of my last edition, one of my builds was I'd run a lot of slaughter priests with the blood sacrifice prayer, but now that you can't, do more than the prayer more than once a turn, it kind of killed that build.
Right. So here's my solution for Tom, because where I think you were on the right track. Let's have the demon units under certain circumstances when they kill things grant an extra point of blood tithe. Okay. So with the demon units roll, so your blood, all your different like, all your different blood letters and all the let's just say keyword blood letters, all the permutations of that they're in, right? Have something that like under this condition, instead of just giving 1 blood tithe if they kill an enemy unit, they can grant you 2. Or a D3 or whatever. Like I don't know like what the trigger is. We could talk about that. Some of them could be like if they kill an enemy hero, right? Then they gain D3. Some of them could be like if they wipe out a unit of at least 30 models, right? Then they gain a D3. Right? You could trot it out in different ways that make sense, right?
Right. Just incentivize people to take demons.
Yeah, to where what the demons do is what I loved about your idea was the concept that they're like a nexus of that blood tithe energy, right? The anchoring the more that their presence allows more demons to show up, right? And so yes, they're ramping you harder, right, into that line. So there you go. Yeah, sure. AOS coach said maybe if they do like a certain amount of X wounds to a unit, they get more blood tithe. Like if they overkill the unit. Right, if they do X amount of wounds over the unit. If they kill a unit in a single combat phase, or do more than 20 wounds, or whatever. I don't know.
Excessive slaughter.
Yeah, we could write 20 different permutations of the rule, and they'd all get at the things, right? So, yeah, that to me feels like that would give the whole demon section, to return back to what we said earlier, a role. They're the blood tithe ramp. You want to play in the blood tithe ramp section, you go hard on demons. Right? And that's what they do. Cool. Now they have a differentiated purpose from the mortals. All right. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Jack, what else you got?
Okay, so we haven't really solved the issue of getting shot off the board, table 1. Like okay. My bloodthirster's dead. So, okay. So the Blood's Crater, which it's like usually the linchpin of, especially in the first edition, where it made you immune to battle shock. But now it still gives you the +1 attack, but you can move with it without planning it.
Yep.
I would like to see the Blood Secretor be able to either pick 3 different, one of 3 types, or you're able to change what it does in your hero phase. One being the normal 16-inch bubble +1 attack. Second would be one that gives you extra -1 rend. And the third would be like a blood fog or something where there's an 8-inch wholly within bubble that is overgrown essentially. Can't see in it, can't target anything in it. That way it can protect yourself a little bit, and maybe you can get up the board.
Okay. Okay. All right. My only concern with that is the Blood Secretor is as close to an auto-include already as you get in the army. Does making him even more versatile and better. Like, I don't hate the idea of what you're talking about. But
isn't there a herald? Isn't there a demon herald?
There is, yes. Skull Taker is who you're thinking of, yes.
There you go. Give it to the Skull Taker.
Okay.
Yeah, like I'm with you. Give it to a hero that isn't as used. But like I love the idea of a cloud, right? That he can make some area around him not shootable. I would go farther than Overgrown, by the way, because Overgrown you can get around it if you're flying, right?
Oh yeah.
So like I would just say like he blocks line of sight. I would almost borrow like the pitch black rules out of I can't think of the name. Out of Slaves to Darkness. Can't think of the. I just literally played this particular subfaction 4 days ago, and it's gone out of my head. Doesn't matter. Okay. Yeah, but I dig that idea because my problem with the Blood Secretor is he's already like so important, but you know, I think that there's like I want to see reasons to take the other heroes. The other heroes, the ones that I mentioned being mini bullies, that'd be good. I love the idea of putting it on Skull Taker so that he's got some kind of purpose, right? Because I think he is one of those heroes that you're like, what's this guy doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, that's the challenge of demons, just in general.
Right.
And so I think that giving them more function in the game, I think should be a big part of the revamp. I really do.
Yeah. Either that or the only other thing I can think of is like I'm trying to like I love this idea and I'm trying to figure out how else you could unpack it, right? Because the problem is like unless you have some way to start with Blood Tithe, it'd be neat if like that was sort of a Blood Tithe ability you could activate, but then it's coming too late, right? Where you could like block, where your entire army just goes block line of sight or something or whatever. Yeah, I really love that. My thing with the Skull Taker and the Skull Taker on the Herald, right? The guy who's on the Juggy, because he has both a foot version and a Juggy version. Is that I would love for those guys to fit more in with sort of the demon purpose. But maybe that's right, because they're demons, they're protecting their big brothers. Right? So yeah, okay, that's cool. I've come around on it. I'm with you. I'm with you on the Skull Taker, dude. Yep. I'm down with that. I think that universally, by the way, let me suggest another fix for Bloodthirsters. Okay? Well, let's put this point out there first. How scary should Bloodthirsters be?
I want them to be really scary. They're greater demon. I think
really scary, right?
Yeah, I would like to see all the greater demons get a 5-up shrug. So I know we have the greater demon of the Horn Rat. They have it. Nurgle. I would just like that just be a greater demon rule. 5-up shrug.
Okay. Like they've all got it. They've all got that feel no pain. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, that's an interesting call. Coach said maybe battalions could give Blood Tithe in advance. Like every battalion also lets you start with 1 point of Blood Tithe. That could be interesting. Okay. Yeah. Like the Bloodthirsters for what they are now. Because here's my argument. Here's my question. Do you want Bloodthirsters to be 400-point heroes? Hero monsters. Because if they're that scary, they should be 400-point hero monsters. Right? Like, that's the range for super scary thing that's going to come rule you in melee, right? That's just going to show up and dominate.
I mean, if they're actually going to do that, then yes, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, that's fine.
I really am.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I'm saying, is that the level you want them at? Because that's significantly more expensive than where they are now. right? Like, right now these guys are they're bargain basement cheap. I mean, that's the advantage of them. Comparatively, these guys are at the 5 and dime, right? uh, and what that would mean is obviously, yeah, you wouldn't see a huge number of them, right? If they're up at like Stonehorn level points or Maw Crusher level points or Kumquat level points, right? Like whatever that's the range we're talking about here, right? We want them to be up in the melee bruiser range, right? The true bullies, Stonehorns, Mega Boss on Maw Crusher, Ghoul King on Terrorgeist. Who else is in that like single monster hero category that's just like absolutely frightening? I don't know. That's a good list for now. Sure. In that range, then they're 400 points minimum. Minsies.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
They're 400 to 440. So they're going to all fall in that range.
As
right?
long as they do the work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm giving them. They're doing the work, right? We're going to juice them straight up to high heck and back. Here would be my argument. I don't want them to have a 5-up shrug. Okay? Like, I get what you're saying, and I'm sympathetic to the argument. Counter argument. Okay? Nah. No. Here's my counter argument. They're Khorne. Khorne doesn't defend. Khorne only attacks. He does not care from whence the blood flows. Literally, if he loses a bloodthirster, it's just as funny to him as if that bloodthirster kills something else.
Yeah, I mean, what I would do is I would make them all ramp, so that the more their profiles only get harsher. And what I mean by that is like
they all go Scarbrand profile, or they all go Mangler Squig profile.
No, I don't want them like to go up and then down. Nope. Okay. What I want is I want them to all ramp. If you do damage to this thing, you better kill it. Okay. Because if you don't, it will table you.
It's coming.
That's
in
what
hard.
I want. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
To me.
And so now there's a real cost to sprinkling wounds on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is just what people do now, right? Because there's no reason not to. Like, just sprinkle some wounds on those guys, get them down. Cool, you knock down some of their key attacks. Are they like super weaker? No, but they're weaker. And it's just like they're not going to be as effective as doing what they do. And then you'll just handle them whenever you can handle them. Whereas what I would do, in my mind, is they should be about 400 points, and they should hit super hard, right? And they shouldn't have the defense of the 5-up shrug like a Stonehorn or whatever. Like, they should be hitting, as hard as you can imagine the mega monster of a melee-focused army hits, right? Yeah, sure, you're fine, Jack. Like, and then, the counterplay to them is get out of the way or kill them before they get at you. That's what you've got to do, right? You've got to shoot them down or chaff them up or jump on them and kill them before they can kill you or something like that, right? And I love the idea, Tom, of the table ramping up. Like, they should just all have the Scarbrand profile, where they just all get, the more you damage them, the hotter they get, right? And, side note, this isn't really anything to do with fixing Khorne. They should all have the same tables, and we should bring back the names of angry, infuriated, blah, 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 whatever, incandescent. I've said it 100 times. Biggest mistake GW made was taking that away. So bring back the cool names to the levels of anger.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. Like, what that would do is that would make them very unique. Yeah, so sure. that would make them distinctive of all the monsters in AOS.
Yes. Because right now, classically, a Keeper of Secrets against a Bloodthirster is sort of a traditional showdown. It's because Slanesh's enemy is Khorne, for reasons that I cannot fathom. It's the stupidest thing ever. They should not be enemies. It should be Slaanesh against Nurgle and Khorne against Tzeentch. It's the obvious pairing. You got it wrong, GW. Just fix it. I don't care about all the lore nerds freaking out. Just fix it. This is wrong. Anyways. But as long as we're going to go with this incorrect pairing, then, right now, I don't know the world where a Keeper of Secrets doesn't house a Bloodthirster, right? Like, that dude is dead. Like, he's getting taken down. Probably multiple of them your average Keeper could plow through, right? That feels like that shouldn't be the case. It feels like it should be a much more, like, razor-thin fight, where, like, if the Bloodthirster attacks, then, things go bad real fast.
Well, not that. If the Keeper attacks and fluffs some of their attacks, and he doesn't, and the keeper doesn't flatline the Bloodthirster, that's game for the keeper.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Yes. So, okay. So do we think that fixes all of basically the Bloodthirsters? If we ramp their offense through the roof, bring them up to about 400-point heroes, right? And make them hit that hard, and have them and flip all their charts and put them all on Scarbrand charts. Are Bloodthirsters now? Does that thing now have a point and a roll? I would argue, hell yeah.
Yes, I like it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, yes, and it maps with the gist of the army itself. Like, it feels right. It rocks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was about to sneeze and I didn't want to do that in the microphone. Okay.
Oh, like, I just went.
No, you're good. All right. We've still got we've got a couple other things I think I want to touch on, but I want to say there's two big elephants in this room that we haven't adjusted yet. Okay, go ahead.
Can I jump?
Go.
I want to acknowledge what Michael said in the chat. Make them immune to magic. Yeah, I'm in. Like,
give them the old 2-up collar of Khorne, where like they just on a 2-up they ignore magic.
Yeah, absolutely. Because here's the deal. That's Khorne's bag, right?
Yeah, sure. That is a defense I could actually see. Like the 5-up against all wounds and mortal wounds, I'm not buying that. But a 2-up against spells, I'm a buyer.
Yes.
That makes sense to me.
Yes. Like, give them that immunity to magic, and yeah, that's what they should be doing. Now they're actually functioning appropriately.
Right. Yep. Okay. All right. All right. I like where your head's at there, Tom. Okay, there are two big elephants in this room we haven't addressed yet. And those are called Blood Reavers and Blood Warriors. Or, as I like to call them, not Marauders and not Chaos Warriors. Right? So, how are we fixing these? What the heck is the point of these things? In a world where Chaos Warriors exist and are bad already, and in a world where Marauders exist and are way too good, what are we doing with these two units to fix them? What is their purpose in this army? We talked about the demon side, and they're on the Blood Tide ramp.
More offense. Move all of them to 2 damage. All of them.
Wow.
All of it.
Wow.
Oh.
Okay. Going hard in on the ogre treatment. Okay. All right. That's a lot. Do we have to take? We'd probably have to take down the number of attacks, I suppose, that the Blood Reavers are making.
They're hitting on 4s, right?
Well, I mean, there are some ways to move that around, but for the most part, yes, they're hitting and moving on 4s.
Whatever. They have no defense. They're pure O. They need to be pure O. They don't have the range of Marauders, like the charge.
That's true.
Just let them hit like a truck. You know, they're on 32 mil bases. We already said that's not changing.
Sure.
Okay. Give them 2 damage.
Okay.
Just let it be.
So, are these units like let's talk rolls for a moment. We already mentioned that Skull Crushers are are a good anvil, right? Okay. So I think that's actually a roll and a good roll. I think Skull Crushers are actually one of those units in the army that actually has a good defined role that isn't easily duplicated, because I think they're a much better anvil than, say, like Chaos Knights. Okay. Mm-hmm. They're the same number of wounds that are cheaper on a better save. Right? So, okay, A+. Or maybe they're the same price now that Chaos Warriors went down. I don't remember exactly, but it's in that area. So let's say they stay how they are. Like, Skull Crushers seem good, do good stuff. Not the most offensive unit, but a solid anvil. So then, are we saying, like, Blood Warriors right now are arguably also meant to be some kind of tar pit, right? Like, that's kind of what they're
Blood
supposed to be,
Warriors,
right?
Blood Warriors do have that coveted ability of attacking when you die in
Yes.
melee.
Yep,
A
they
lot
have
of people-
built-in death frenzy.
And I like that.
So but they attack you back with pillows, and so they just need to be able to do more, even if it's rend or because they wound on 4s. That needs to improve.
Right.
Like, if they were 2 damage, that would be a good start. I also think Blood Warriors need to have more rend as well. I think they need to be a default neg 1 rend, neg 2 on the bat clef or whatever, the Klingon weapon, and then Reavers need to be no rend, 2 damage.
Okay.
I think that's the difference.
All right. No, I like that. So remember, I've pulled a lot of the synergy out of the army because I've taken out all of the sort of heroes that have these rando command abilities, right? But we've also eliminated a lot of the keyword bingo. So we're assuming that some of the other command abilities can work. Honestly, here's what I would say. I would pull out even more synergy, okay? Fundamentally, Khorne should not be an army that relies on synergy. All right? Khorne is an army of people who want to be heroes, right? Each one of them is a hero above the other one. Each one of them will happily kill their friend just for the chance to go kill an enemy before their friend can do it, right? This is an army of blood, of rage, of just, unfettered fury. It's right there in the name, right? So, I think, to me, the answer is we got to de-synergize some of this stuff. And in response, pump up the main scrolls, right? Have them more acting as independent operators that need less buffs, okay? So I like your idea, Tom. So let's say that Blood Reaver's point is to be the lots of sort of the kind of ogre glutton style thing, right? So we've de-synergized a lot of different things they can do. Okay, let's assume we pull out a lot of different synergies. So and let's say what you can sort of get them to is like 3 attacks, maybe 4 attacks in some situations, or whatever, something like that, right? And then they're on more or less 4s and 4s, okay, but 2 damage with no rend. And we still allow some minor synergy, right? Like you get them up to 3-4 attacks, so they're just swinging a lot. And by the by, I love integrating Jack's idea into this of in melee under certain conditions they can fight. Like they gain a reach of 2 inches. Maybe that's the modeled number trigger on the Blood Reaver scroll, right? If there's more than 10 of them, then they all fight as though they had a 2-inch reach. Just how inexplicably Marauder axes gain neg 1 rend when you got 20 dudes. Like they get sharper when they all get together, right? So like the it could be like if they're in a larger number, it could be whatever we could have any kind of trigger on it.
That actually gives you a benefit for having a large number, because in Khorne sometimes you want to go MSU to get those blood ties because you want them to die, but now it benefits you if you have a unit of 40 because you're going to have that 2 range.
Yep. And we can do that with the cheap unit, right? So there you go. And what we do with them is, they are like the tons of attacks because each model's making 3 or 4 attacks. In a lot of circumstances, they're fighting with a 2-inch reach, and they're all basically 4s and 4s, probably with some rerolling 1s here or there as per standard. Often you got rerolling 1s built into the scrolls, and that's right, there it is, and 2 damage each. And so they're the like mass low quality damage, right? Low quality attacks, low quality damage, but they put out tons of it. That's their defined role. Okay. The Blood Warriors, we keep that we keep their pile-in on death. I agree with you. It's one of the things that makes them super unique, right? Oh, that's a good call. Yeah, maybe the Blood Reavers also have a 6-inch pile-in or something like that. Sure. Or maybe it's the Blood Reavers get built in, run and charge. Maybe they're the ones that run and charge. And we just completely get rid of their save. Put them back to like no save, not even a 6-up. Put them back to like no save at all, right? But we also give them run and charge. So they're just lunatics, right?
You ever play the game Serious Sam?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely, man.
Yeah. Charging at you.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm picturing. Yes. Thank you. You know what you just did? Okay. All right. Hold on. I want to say something here. Khorne should play like the original Doom Marine or like Serious Sam or like the first Quake, right? Just a bullet hell shooter, right? There was no story really there. Those were that first generation of like 90s shooters, you know, like Doom and stuff like that. There wasn't really like a narrative wrapped around it. It wasn't anything more. It was just you're a guy, those are bad guys, you have guns, make the bad guys dead. And it's just you plowing through things, right? That feeling is what playing Khorne should feel like. That's Khorne right there. Okay? All right. So I agree with you. I think Blood Warriors, you actually kind of maybe we cap the units smaller. Maybe it's purposely meant to be run a little more MSU, not in a big tar pit. Like defined role of the Skull Crushers is a tar pit anvil. Defined role of these guys is your high quality can openers. Okay, where maybe they're capped at like 10 or 15. Like that's literally their max unit size, right? And but we give them like Rend, Neg 1, Neg 2 under certain circumstances. Like absolutely Rend Neg 2 under some pretty achievable circumstances. Like self buff on the scroll in some way, right? So they're in small numbers, they have high Rend, and they fight on death. So they're just can openers that they get into you, they get the damage across. And then I agree with you, by the way, Tom, they are still damage too as well, right? But you keep them on like the 3s and 4s. You know, again, low synergies, they're still in those numbers. Khorne isn't finesse. Khorne isn't quality until you get up to the heroes. That's where you get like the really skilled combatants, right? People who are like the heroes are dudes who are hitting on 3s and even 2s and you know stuff like that. Because those are like warriors just who have killed their way to the top of literally a mountain of skulls, right? Like they have proven they're the best. These guys are just rage monsters, right? That's what they're doing. Then you've got a defined role for that, right? Because it's a targeted, relatively small MSU-ish, not necessarily MSU, but MSU-ish in that range, can opener that just gets in there and cuts through any high armor that's on the table. That's a great role. Yeah, I love it, right? Because then you look at those guys and you go, okay, each of these 3 units is part of my fully balanced corn pop breakfast, right? Like now I'm ready to go. Okay, cool. Jack, did you have anything else? What other idea did you have? You have anything else you want to hit on for solving Khorne?
I think my other idea was the blood tide, but your idea was just mine was simply it doesn't reset. But I love Tom's idea of it connecting with summoning as well. And so it's definitely a very fun, and it's as complicated as you want it to be. You can play Khorne and it can be really simple. You have these units, or you can like. The book is so full of tricks. Like Josh from Masterpiece Miniatures.
Yeah,
he is an amazing Khorne player. I got to play him at Nova, and yeah, he is. And just it definitely there's a lot of gas in the engine as well as you guys like to say. But
yeah.
It needs help though. It does need help.
Yeah, to me, the right answer is like you take all these changes we've just talked about. And like I said, you de-synergize the army, make it more so these things work, you know, basically much more alone, much less bubbles, much less bubble maintenance. You know, maybe you've got like a hero giving a buff to a unit. And that's kind of like what you would expect. And that's the most, right? A command ability, a thing. But these guys are mostly self-starters. They're Khorne. They're rage-filled. They're ready to go murder for their god. They're here. They're ready to do work, right? And to me, even though some of these things we've mentioned seem kind of complicated or powerful, when you take out all the synergy and all this complicated bubble maintenance, I think you do 2 things. One is you do bring the army power level up, but not excessively so. Like you bring it up to where it should be, right? 2, like we have now at least 3 different defined builds I can think of just off the changes we've recommended with like 3 different strats to victory, which is cool, right? And 3, you make the army a lot more friendly to a lot more players, right? This is like arguably one of the starter armies of the game. You know, arguably. And yet there's no way I would tell somebody new, go pick up Khorne.
Yeah.
There's just no way.
Weird.
I'd be like, well, how do you feel?
I would never recommend Khorne in its current state.
Right, to a new player. Because I'd be like, well, how do you feel about bubbles?
Yeah.
The
only thing good about Khorne for a new player is even when you have a negative experience, you get a positive experience because you do get a blood type. Yep. I remember you mentioned this before, and it's like, yes, I celebrate every time something dies, even though it's my bloodthirster and got shot off. I'm like, I do get a blood type though.
Right,
so
blood type. Yep.
Yeah.
The truly best design element in Khorne. This is something that's really good to do in like this is a great thing that came up in game design in like the last 10 to 15 years as a major concept. The idea of winning for losing. Okay? Yeah. That like you should win more for winning, but in games that are meant to be fun and not just like, some other thing going on. You should also win for losing. Like you should fail at your primary thing, but still get something, right? And Blood Tithe is the ultimate expression of win for losing. Like I've got a Khorne player. He actually should be back in some coming weeks. The Khorne player in my group has been out of town for months and months, and so I haven't got to play Khorne in forever. Not just because of Corona, obviously too. So like I haven't seen the guy for 9 months, but he'll be back probably soon, and I'm sure we'll get a game on. And every time he loses a unit, he's like, "Oh, Blood Tithe." And he goes over and he like marks the point. Like he's always so happy about it. It's just a great moment, right? When you're like, okay, I get a thing. So yeah, I agree. All right, Tom, any final thoughts before you're swept away on the wins?
No, wins are picking up here, but it's fine.
Praying for you.
Thanks, man. No, I think that these small, subtle war scroll changes, because that's largely what we've proposed. Yeah. Some war scroll changes and. Ironically, obviously, given our show that we did a couple of weeks ago on the significance of war scroll changes, that with just a couple changes to the core blood tithe mechanic, and I think you have a very interesting army, especially if you're spreading the priest out onto the throne, the blood throne, to give some demon priests as well. I think that suddenly you have a very interesting combination of abilities.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot to make a big difference.
Yeah. And one of the questions that was asked was Harrow said, how are we dealing with the shooting versus missile armies problem? Well, I think we partially dealt with it because we mentioned that like the Skull Taker or Heralder guy or whatever would have some ability to like bubble out a non-shooting aura or a penalty to shooting aura or something like that through the gore mist,
Or you just make everything a threat.
Right.
Like one way to deal with shooting armies is you make everything a threat to the shooting army, and then they prioritize targets.
Absolutely.
Like one of the worst experiences as a shooting player, because I play a lot of shooting armies, is having too many potential targets.
Sure.
Knowing that even if I eliminate, like the threat in front of me, that's not going to save me.
Like when you're staring down, when I play like my Iron Jaws or something like that against you, where it's like any one of these units, if it touches you, is going to explode the thing it touches.
Yep. And if Khorne had that type of experience, that is its own shooting defense. Yeah, because if all these are independent operators, I can't prioritize targets enough.
I agree. And I think if you have Khorne should always be a little bit on the back foot against shooting. That should be sort of a natural counter to heavy melee armies. That's okay, right? For them to be a little on the back foot against that kind of an army. That's actually feels like the appropriate thing. But there's a difference between a little on the back foot and like, oh, this is probably an L, right? The key is maintaining that balance. And I think if you have some ability to minimize or negate shooting through like a gore mist thing under a certain condition, and you have a lot of very present threats, and we have the speed problem challenged in some of, or fixed in some of the ways we've mentioned here, or like the ways where the Bloodthirster, if he doesn't get taken out and he gets to your line on one wound, that unit he just touched evaporates, right? Because he is twice as scary as he was when he started, which, by the way, is like twice as scary as any Bloodthirster is right now, right? Yeah. And so he's like 4 times as scary if you don't bring him down. I think when you put all that stuff together, what you get then is a really good interplay, right? Because the shooting army is going to have a lot of trouble, like you said, prioritizing targets. They're not going to be able to always choose the thing they want. And if they don't do it exactly right, or their dice break slightly wrong, or they make a misplay, Khorne gets in there and it's just like, zip, bang, say goodnight, Gracie. Right? There you go. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. All right, gentlemen. Well, I think we fixed Khorne. All they got to do is implement these changes, and we're good. We're good.
Yeah. I'm happy with it.
So all we need is book 4 of Khorne.
People will be so upset if Khorne gets a new book first.
Just saying, you got 3 books before I got my 1 with Slaanesh, but I guess if we got to measure brokenness, that one Slaanesh book had more brokenness than all 3 of your books put together.
I mean, it's true.
Shalaxi's right there. I got 2 keepers. Slaanesh is my heart. That's where my heart lies.
That's right.
It was just so hard to play Slaanesh casually.
Right.
When it came out in the book, it was really hard to take your foot off the gas. It's like, okay, do I not roll for you to fight last, or so that's why I was only on the channel once, because it's
right.
So,
should I not use all of the abilities printed on my war scroll that I know are going to just like absolutely murderize you?
Yeah. Can I jump in with another potential ability?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, man. Hit me.
And I don't know where this would fit, but this would be a really interesting effect. It would so I love introducing abilities that change decision points.
Yeah, sure.
And so I've been playing a lot of Magic recently.
Yeah.
Not surprising.
We know.
And one of the really interesting effects is an ability called Double Strike.
Yep.
Where you first strike and then you as well hit.
Yeah, you fight twice. Yeah.
You fight twice essentially. How interesting would it be if there would be some ability, and I don't know if this is on Bloodthirsters, I don't know who this would be on. It would be like Relish in the Slaughter or something like that.
Okay.
Where however much damage your unit does, if that unit is still on the battlefield at the end of the combat phase, it does that damage again to the prior unit.
Oh, sure. Like if they didn't die in the kickback, they just automatically deal some number of wounds to the unit again.
Right.
Yeah, like a nice fast way to resolve it. That's kind of a cool thought.
Right.
Sure.
Right. So rather than doing a fight afterwards, so then maybe this is your answer, by the way, to the Blood Warriors. Rather than having to roll those attacks upon death, is however much damage they did on their activation, they do that damage again to a unit that they're in combat with at the end of the combat phase if the unit didn't die.
Yeah, you could also just have it be some function of mortal wounds automatically dealt or something like that, right? Yeah. The point being though is you get out of needing to roll a whole nother combat, right? You just say this is the damage you dealt. If the unit's still alive, then a unit within 1 inch or 3 inches of it or something like that, right? Just takes X number of mortal wounds.
So you backload the damage.
Yeah. Saves you from rolling more attacks.
Yep.
Right. And I'm thinking about how Slaanesh made units fight last.
Sure. Khorne kills last.
Khorne finishes the job.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I don't know. So it's something some effect like that would be an interesting design space to play in, because that's not somewhere they've explored.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good
idea.
It
would be a quick resolution.
Exactly. It doesn't, because I think we all got our a belly full of fighting twice and rerolling all attacks and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. We're good. Yeah, that's nice. All right. Well, with that, folks, I think we're going to call it a night. Jack, sir, absolute pleasure having you on the show, my friend.
Thank you. It was like one of the me and my brother, he's been my Warhammer. He's the older brother. He got me into the thing. And we was like, oh, one day you'll be on that show. And, hey, look at me.
Well, Jack, we'll have you on the show anytime you like. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
All right.
Very good. All right. For all of you out there watching, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Do please hit that like button so that more people can find this. And maybe we can get some hashtag Fix Khorne out there. Let's see it happen. I figure if we do enough of these shows and throw enough of these ideas out into the world, some of it's got to happen, right? It's just got to. That's
just don't say anybody's extremely lazy. It's just.
Badoom shing. There you go. All right, with that, thank you, everybody. Like I said, don't forget to hit like. But as always, we appreciate it. And we'll see you next Wednesday.